Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Why don't you guys sit back and enjoy this video? Let's go for a ride. Like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell.
We're sitting here with Jeremy, lease operator at Prime. He's been a lease operator for how long?
Total of 17. Well, the lease operator I've been doing 4 years.
4 years with
Yes.
Prime, okay. We're going to talk a little bit about lease, how to be a successful lease operator. Jeremy's been leasing for 4 years, as you heard, and he's been successful at it. So let's first find out a little bit about you. How long have you been trucking?
Going on 17 years.
17 years, and it took you how long before you went lease?
13 years.
Okay, the 17 years, was that with Prime?
No, I started off with Schneider, almost 4 years with them, and then I made a rookie move and got let go. Let's just put it that way.
They no longer needed your services. Huh?
Exactly. You know,
Okay.
a mistake.
It was a mistake. It wasn't an accident or anything with the truck. It was just a dumb mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Not illegal or anything.
No.
Okay, so let me ask you this: lease operators, how are you being successful at leasing at Prime?
Staying out and running. Running is the key thing, you know. For me, I found, you know, other people, you know, they can do what they got to do. Each person who does leasing, they got to look at their own financial situation and what their goals are. You know, I got me, my wife, and my daughter. So I got 3 people I'm looking after. You know, myself, my daughter, and my wife. So given our situation, I try to stay out minimum 6 weeks, sometimes 2 months, depending on what's going on. Keep that money flowing, save up the money before I go home, because when I go home, I have enough money in my e-fund.
So you save it in an e-fund?
Yes, okay. I go home, and then what I try to do is, like, the load I'm getting ready to pick up here, is gonna take me to go to Montana. I'll drop that off Wednesday evening. That I already missed the cutoff. So that load is going to go on from the week that I'm taking off.
That week that you're off, okay.
So this load's paying me roughly $1,700. Okay. So after my fuel, my fixed cost, which is around $1,200, and a little bit of fuel, I might get about a $300 settlement.
For being home.
For being home for a week.
Let me say this real quick for those of you who don't know what an e-fund is. An e-fund it's basically voluntary. You can put X amount of dollars a week into this fund. You can do mileage. You can do percentage, up to 10% of your gross to your truck. What this fund's good for is like going home. Say you didn't cover your fixed costs, you could use your e-fund to go ahead and cover those costs so you don't go into the hole.
Correct.
Going in the hole is not a thing you want to do.
No.
But let me ask you this: as a new lease operator, just starting lease, how long should you stay out and to build an e-fund before you go home?
I'd recommend it 2 months. Personally, I stayed out 3 months my first time.
Okay.
You know, just so I could get used to running hard, banking that money, and because this was all new to me. I mean, I was 13 years company, so I didn't have to worry about, you know, fuel savings or anything like that, taking out my own taxes or anything like that. So that was all new to me.
All right, so staying out, okay, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense. Have you ever gone home and went in a hole?
One time, I believe, I was in a hole for $200.
Okay, so it didn't take you a long time to dig out.
No,
okay.
No.
Because I've heard people, they'll go in a hole for their whole payment, you know, $1,500.
It's risky doing that.
Big time.
Because it could backfire, and it could take you 3 weeks to get out.
And meaning 3 weeks without a paycheck.
Right.
And why would you want to work for no money?
Exactly.
And that's why you want to have an e-fund going. Okay.
See, for me now, the way I've set up my way, since I got my own money in my banks and everything, that $300 that might get us a settlement.
$300.
That's a low check for me.
Right.
I don't have to touch my e-fund, but I'm still getting a paycheck. It may not be much,
right?
Especially after you take out taxes, you know. But you know, you might be looking at $100, but everything gets paid for, and I'm still at home for a week.
Right. What do you, as far as taxes go, you take out taxes weekly?
Yes. Whenever I get my settlement, the first thing I do, and this is only my preference, I take out 35% of the settlement.
Okay, 35%. That's kind of high, but I guess it depends on where you live and what your situation is.
Right. See, I pay state and federal, and I like to have more than enough. And if I have too much, then at the end of the year, I give myself a bonus.
That's what I did. I take out 25%, but I don't have any state tax where I live.
Right.
And at the end of the year, I was over about $6,000.
Right.
So I left $3,000 for next year's taxes, and I took a couple thousand, bought things I wanted, and then threw $1,000 in savings.
Right.
Now, do you pay your taxes at the end of the year, or do you pay them quarterly?
Well, when I first started off, I was in the S-Corp. So I was paying business quarterlies and personal at the end of the year. I waited to the end of the year to pay my personal stuff.
Okay.
Just recently, right before the end of the year, I switched over to regular LLC.
Because?
I had found out that I was paying way too much in taxes.
Who told you that?
Abacus.
No, who told you to go see Abacus?
You did, my friend.
That was one of the first things we talked about when we met a year ago.
But
whatever it was.
No. Seeing that I didn't know anything really about leasing, I just jumped right into it after 13 years of being a company. I was still successful, even though I was paying too much. I was still managing.
Yeah, you were.
And I was still doing okay.
Now you're going to do better. And this is why we're making this video, because someone else might want to jump into an S-Corp, because an S-Corp sounds, ooh, I'm a big company. I'm going to make myself a paycheck, company separate. But unless you got to meet certain criteria for that S-Corp.
Correct.
To make sense.
See, the reason why I went S-Corp was because I was afraid, if I got out here and got into an accident, I didn't want to get sued personally.
Right.
So I was told, by the way I understood it, that if you went S-Corp, they can only go after your company. Now, that may still hold true, but as years went down, I started second guessing. Not the fact that I got bad advice, but I wanted to make sure I was doing profitable my situation. Right. So after learning that I could save myself more money by just doing a regular LLC and not the S-Corp, I decided to change. Now the S-Corp is good if you're going to have multiple trucks.
Right, exactly.
You see that I only have one, and I don't plan on having a fleet. That's never my goal. One day I will own one truck.
Right. And if you did, say, start a fleet and it made sense to go S-Corp, you just change it.
Right, exactly. It's not that hard to change.
With an LLC, you are protected to a point. That's a limited liability company. That's what LLC means. Okay, so that's good. That's some good information. Careful when you start your company, whether you're going to go sole proprietor, LLC, or S-Corp. I recommend an LLC just because the limited liability, the sole proprietor, you're solely responsible. S-Corp, it just costs you more money when you're running a single truck.
Because not only was I paying personal tax, I was paying company taxes.
Okay.
So, but I was able to write off and hide more money. Like I said, it's all legal mumbo jumbo, so I don't really know all that stuff because I'm not a lawyer or a tax person. All right. So, but there is a lot of plus to the S-Corp and a lot of plus to the, depending on what you want to do in your structure. Right. So just make sure you know what you want as far as an LLC and an S-Corp or sole proprietor, like David said.
So let me ask you, did Prime push you into going lease?
No.
No, that was something you wanted to do?
Yep.
Okay.
It was something I wanted to make more money. I was tired of being held down to a certain amount as a company driver. For 13 years, the most I ever made as a company driver was hovering right around that 900 mark. When that was after my taxes, my
900
insurance.
Net. Okay.
Yeah, 900
now,
net.
That wasn't with Prime?
No, that was not with Prime.
That was not with Prime. Okay.
I came strictly over to Prime as Lease. Okay. I didn't even go company.
I ran company at Prime for about a year, and I averaged about $1,000. We'll call it $1,000 a week net after taking out health insurance and taxes and everything. I did better, but I'm going to keep it on the low side just because when I did paycheck videos, I had some people get a hold of me and say, hey, well, why can't I make that? Right. And, it's like, well, if you want to call me on the phone, we can talk about it, but I didn't want to go over it in the comment section. Right. Because, it can get...
When you're breaking down the settlements, it's very hard for people to understand what we as Lease goes through, because everybody has the ability to try to make that money, but it all depends on, again, what the loads are paying, what lanes you're staying in, your fuel costs, your truck payment, because each, even a Peterbilt to a Freightliner to an International, they're within about $100, I believe.
Right. I think International's the cheapest Peterbilt, and then of course the
Freightliner,
the truck,
right.
Freightliner is the most expensive one.
Yeah.
Which people are going to go, really? I thought Peterbilt would be
right.
But,
I mean, each of those are a little bit different, but and you also got to be, like I said, mentality of keeping track of how much loads are paying, how many loads you can get in a week, because we know as truck drivers, paychecks are never going to stay the same. Ever.
Exactly.
Ever. You're not going to get a duplicate paycheck.
So your best thing is get an e-fund going and get a savings account going, so you're not living paycheck to paycheck.
Correct.
That, in trucking in general, that's a good rule of thumb. In life in general, that's a good rule of thumb. But one of the things that I want to say about Lease is you can make more money lease, but you can also lose a lot more money.
Yes.
You can actually bankrupt yourself as a lease operator. Couple of the ways that I've seen people do it is, the number one is not putting money away for taxes. Okay, end of the year comes around, you owe $30,000 in taxes, and you're like, I quit, trucking's horrible. No, you just didn't manage it right. The other way is going home too much without an e-fund. I personally, and I'm going to keep hounding you on this, don't go home and go into the hole.
Correct.
That is just wrong. A lot of guys want to go home. They get their lease truck. Hey, I got a free week's payment. I'm going home. No, that payment's deferred. It's spread out over 8 months.
Right.
You pay it each week, and you need that free payment to stay in the green on your first week of lease, because things you got to do, you just don't, that first week just doesn't seem to do all that great. I think my first week was okay, my second week was good, and then as I went on, I learned the difference between lease and company, and I started making decent money.
Right.
I think I went $30 in the hole my whole time lease.
Right.
And again, I just didn't pull e-fund out. I was like, man, I don't need to. Why deplete it, take e-fund?
Prime example. I'm going home, like I say, after this next load. Okay, I'll be off for 6-7 days. Me, my daughter's going to jump on the truck with me. We're going to run for about 12 days. I have a date in Michigan, to be in Michigan June 12th. So I figure we'll be in there around June 10th. Okay, we're coming out on the 2nd. So actually, we're going to be running 8 days. Okay. Now, since I'm going home, this load's already paying for my week that I'm going to be off at home. I'm going to come out with a small check, right? So I'm going to run. Usually when I come out of the hole or come out of the house, they bounce me down to Idaho and head me out east. Those loads, I can usually bank around $3,000.
Right.
Sometimes $4,000, depending on where it's going. Okay? So I'll run hard for that week, and then we're going to take some more time off in Michigan. Now, mind you, I got about $6,000 sitting into my e-fund. Okay? So, if you want to play hard, and you got to make sure you got that money to play hard. Okay? So, I'll come back out, work for a week, and I'm going to take a week off in Michigan. But, we got family. She hasn't seen in over a couple of years. Because we live in Montana. They live in Michigan. So, that's how I'm able to take off a lot of time, because I know, on some of your lives, you're like, oh, you're taking more time off than I ever will. Blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because over the year, I've sat and banked some money to take some time off. And, I'm going to do this is quality time for me and my daughter to spend time together. So it's long overdue, since I do stay out two months at a time usually. It's hard, but she's grown up with this. I've been trucking since she's been 9 months old.
Yeah, so your family's used to it.
Yes.
You're used to it. That's great. That's awesome.
Yes.
Now, you don't normally take off that much time in such a short distance.
No.
So, okay. Because you're gonna fairly have to burn up some e-fund to do this. But the thing is leasing and trucking is allowing you to do that.
Correct.
You're gonna get some quality time with your daughter.
Not only that, but once you finish a lease, you do acquire 3 or 4 free payments when you continue leasing.
Okay, for your next
So
lease.
now it's not just a deferred, but it's actually free.
Right. Okay.
Okay, I got one of those left.
Okay.
So
you
if
might use it
if
there.
I find myself in a bind,
Mhm.
I might use that last one. I'm trying to hold it out until I really, really, really need it.
Right.
But I used it when I went home. I think for Christmas or when we were slow. I'd used one.
Yeah.
And I've used a couple others. When my mother-in-law passed away, I used one. And
Right.
yeah. So yeah.
Right on. Okay.
But yeah, I do have backup strategies of why because I'm gonna be taking spurts of times off for the next month or so.
And that's important. And that's one of the things I always tell people. Look, if you got to look at company, you're going to make X amount of dollars. You're going to get a really good, inexpensive health insurance benefit to you. And after being at Prime for a year as a company driver, that health insurance premium cuts way down. So you got to weigh that in versus the home time you take as a company. Because company, you get 1 day every 7 days out. They don't like you to go home for more than 4 or 5 days at a time. To our lease, that's a good thing. One of the things I'm going to lease because I'm going to go home as much as I want, and whenever I want. Is that the case? Can you go home as much as you want and whenever you want?
You technically and legally, yes, you can go home whenever the hell you want. But here's the but. You better make sure you got money to pay for this truck.
Yeah.
This payment comes out every week,
Whether
no
you're
matter
working
what.
or not. Yep.
Whether you're
Yep.
that's $1,200 every week, no matter what. No matter if this truck moves.
That's your fixed cost. That's your truck payment, insurance,
yes,
permits, everything.
And like Dave was mentioning about the company side, as a lease operator, we're not guaranteed or offered health insurance.
Right.
I pay $720 out of my pocket out of Subs. What do you call it? Subs Health or
I don't know who it is.
I don't know, but Prime gives us a little discount, but it's nothing compared to being company.
So one of the things again I want to say is if you can't really maintain a hard run, and like Jeremy was explaining, it's probably better for you to stay company because when you go home, you're not paying anything out of pocket other than your home time.
Right.
And as company, I believe after a year and 125,000 miles, you get a week's vacation, paid vacation, I'm sorry. And if they're still doing it, they were doing it when I was driving. What they average out so many weeks, because obviously your pay's all over the place. They average out like the last 4 weeks,
right?
If they're still doing that. But
it comes out to be, I believe, like a normal paycheck for a company.
Yeah, but
whatever that may be,
I can see, because I can see a lot of these guys that they need health insurance. They got to pay it out of pocket. They want to go home a lot. Because even going home for a couple of days as a lease operator, depending on how those loads fall, you can end up with no paycheck.
Right.
I just stopped. I was 2 days at the terminal, and I wasn't going to have a paycheck. I also spent $500 in servicing on the truck, which you have to do, that you don't have to do as a company driver. But the way the loads was falling, I was like, okay, if I don't get a payroll load and a good one, I'm gonna probably make no check or have to pull e-fund out. And luckily I got a check. I got a load that just made it on payroll. That was a good paying load, and so I ended up with a normal paycheck, even though I took the 2 days off. But it almost didn't work that way. So you got to be prepared for that. I would have just either let it ride, or I'd have pulled a little e-fund out just to have a little bit of a check. I like to have checks.
Right. Another good rule of thumb is if you are you're in the lease, you want to take time off, try to break it up in between the 2 pay periods.
Yeah.
Pay period ends for us Wednesday, 1400 or 1600 Central Time. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to take time off, take off Monday, Tuesday. That's 1 week. And then Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday will be the following week.
Yeah, exactly. Try to split it up. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That way you have 2 days before pay period, 2 days after pay period. That works well. Now I take 7 days off at a time, so it doesn't matter.
It all depends on how it works. Like for me, I usually try to go home on a Thursday because I know the loads that are getting me up to Montana pay good. You know,
and the load getting you out generally
it's going to pay good.
Yep.
Exactly. I still have to bounce a heck of a way coming out of the house because of where I live. Now, mind you, if you can live in an area where you got plenty of freight coming in and out, you ain't going to have no issues. But, you know, you can actually get home a little more. But I live out in the sticks, and hopefully here in another year or two, that's going to change.
Now, having said that, you can go home a little bit more. Let me just run my scenario by you. I try to stay out 5 weeks, and now, first of all, I was living in the truck, my wife and I, for about a year and a half. We bought a house, so now we're going home. We try to go home about every 5 weeks. We stay home for 7 days. So look at it this way: we're losing a week's pay. It's costing us about $12.50 for our fixed costs I got to pay. So you lost your week's pay, you're paying out $12.50, and then it always seems like I spend $1,000 or so. I know. We're just moving in, so she keeps buying furniture. So you know, going home is expensive, but if you've got that e-fund, I try to keep my e-fund, because I'll take out $2,000 when I go home. I my $1,200 fixed cost, plus I give myself a nice paycheck. And the way I'm putting money into my e-fund, even though I do that, I'm still building, because I was trying to keep $5,000 in there at all times. So I was like, hey, when I get to $7,000, I'll go home. Well, I get to $7,000 in, you know, 3 weeks or so, 4 weeks or so. Like right now, when I go home, I'll probably be about $8,500.
Are you putting in just the 5%?
I'm putting in 5%.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're a team truck.
That's true.
Okay, you're forgetting. Yeah, we're a team truck. Now everyone's, oh, team truck, so you're making double what Jeremy's making. No, we don't. You don't generally run double when you're teaming. There's a potential to, but you got to remember, you got to drop and pick up loads, and
plus you're paying for your wife.
Exactly. The when you're a team truck, like myself, I'm Lease, my wife's company, so we get all company benefits through her, which is great. But the lease operator pays the company driver. So, you know, depending on how many miles she gets, I think I pay her 20 cents a mile. Probably going to bump her up to 25 cents a mile. But, so yeah, that comes out of my check. But the checks are still really nice, you know, as long as... Okay, I think we probably average... I would say we're probably averaging about 4,300 miles a week, and making pretty good money doing it. So, you know, if you're thinking about a husband and wife team, is really awesome. So, hey, you have anything else to say on the subject?
No, if anybody's got any questions, leave a comment, and David can get back with me. I'm sure, you know, we're going to be doing some more videos together, I'm sure.
Yeah, and we're gonna get together at some point and do a live, so we can take questions. You know, anyone asks questions.
And when I'm going to home, I'm going to get my year's worth of payments. Plus, I'm going to get my tax. So I can show you, or show everybody what I made, and we can break it down and go from there. Yeah.
But if you can get your total for me,
right?
What you netted, you can give me what you grossed and what you netted. That would be, people be curious, because you're going to see like $300,000 gross, or, you know, and well, a solo truck, you're probably what, in the twos.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe the high two is almost 3.
And you're going to see that gross is going to be way up here, and the net's going to be way down here. You're going to be like, what the hell? And that's the problem with Facebook.
Good.
That's the problem with YouTube, is a lot of times, oh yeah, I made this year $400,000, but they're not telling you that they grossed that, and they probably netted 125 or whatever, which is not bad money. But I'm just saying, is that goes on a lot. I see in paycheck videos, they talk about the gross and not their net, not what they're taking home. They're talking about what came to the truck, which just isn't accurate. So anyways, yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and we'll try and do a couple other videos and go from there. But right now, I got to get on the road. This lazy guy's just going to sit here. But yeah, I got to get on the road.
Got to wait for pick up my load.
I got to go clean his dirty trailer he just dropped.